The question that silenced the room, it was a quiet morning in Los Angeles, the kind that made the city feel softer than usual. The sun slipped through the clouds in patches, casting golden light across the busy streets. Outside a grand glass building, a line of journalists stood, holding microphones and cameras, waiting for the press conference to begin. Inside, actors, directors, and producers filled the space with nervous energy, adjusting ties, checking makeup, and rehearsing smiles. Among them stood Keanu Reeves, calm as ever, dressed in a black jacket with worn-out shoes and gentle eyes that seemed to look through the noise. The event was meant to celebrate a new film, one that mixed old Hollywood beauty with a modern tale of strength and survival. Ana de Armas had been cast in the lead role. She had poured her soul into it. For weeks, she had worked harder than anyone else on set. Her eyes had told every story. Her voice had carried every emotion. And yet she walked into the room that day, as if unsure whether she truly belonged. Ana stood quietly near the edge of the stage, her hands holding each other behind her back. Her smile was soft, almost fragile. Beside her, a tall man in a grey suit adjusted the microphone. He was the reporter from a well-known network. He had a reputation, not for kindness, but for getting people to react. As the conference began, the moderator welcomed the audience, introducing the stars of the film. Keanu received loud cheers, respectful nods, and flashes from dozens of cameras. When Ana's name was called, the applause came slower, a little more polite than genuine. She bowed her head slightly, hiding the hint of hesitation in her eyes. The questions started coming quickly. Directors spoke of the filming process. Actors shared memories from the set. Everyone seemed in good spirits until the reporter in gray cleared his throat and leaned into the microphone. His words came fast, cold, and sharp. "Ana," he said with a smirk. "Some people think you're just a pretty face. Many wonder if you're really ready to carry a film like this. How do you respond to those who say you're not serious enough to be a leading actress?" There was a hush in the room. The air felt tighter. Ana blinked, caught between the urge to smile and the weight of humiliation. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. For a second, it was as if the lights had dimmed only over her. Keanu, who had been listening quietly, turned his head. He didn't interrupt. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stepped forward, placed a gentle hand on the table, and looked directly at the reporter. "Can I ask you something?" Keanu's voice was steady, almost too calm. The reporter raised an eyebrow. "Sure," he said. Keanu paused, then asked, "Have you ever tried to be brave while the world is laughing at you?" The question hung in the air like thunder before the rain. The room fell into silence again. Not the awkward kind, but the kind that felt sacred. People turned to look at Keanu, unsure of what he meant at first. The reporter, for once, had no reply. Keanu continued, still soft, but clearer now. "Because that's what she did. Every day. I saw it. And if you saw it too, you'd ask a different question." Ana looked up slowly. Her eyes were wide, moist with surprise. She had expected silence from everyone. She had expected to swallow her pain and smile through it like she always did. But Keanu's words pulled her back from a place. She had almost slipped into a place of shame. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Even the other reporters looked down at their notepads. Keanu didn't look angry. He looked tired of seeing people torn down when they were already climbing uphill. "I think," he added, "real strength is quiet. It's not loud or perfect. And when someone keeps going after being doubted again and again, that's the kind of strength worth talking about." There was no applause. Not yet. Just silence. And in that silence, Ana finally spoke. "Thank you," she whispered, not just to Keanu, but to the part of herself that had almost stopped believing she was enough. The moderator quickly moved on, asking another question to the producer, but the mood in the room had changed. People now looked at Ana differently. not as the girl who got lucky, but as the woman who kept walking even when the road was steep. When the press conference ended, Anna walked off stage slowly. She wasn't smiling wide. She didn't need to. She was walking taller now. Keanu waited near the hallway. When their eyes met, she nodded once, and he nodded back. No words were exchanged. None were needed. But somewhere in that quiet moment, something powerful had passed between them. Not just friendship, not just respect, but a shared understanding of what it means to protect someone when it matters most. And outside the building, as reporters packed up and the city returned to its usual noise, one camera kept rolling a little longer. Not on the lights, not on the stage, but on two people walking out together, side by side, the one who had been insulted and the one who answered with a question the world would not forget, when silence speaks louder than applause. The next morning, the video clip had already traveled across the world. On phones, televisions, and laptops, people watched the moment again and again. The moment Keanu Reeves asked a question that didn't just protect Ana de Armas but made everyone pause and think. Headlines popped up in dozens of languages. Keanu defends co-star with just one sentence, a masterclass in grace and strength. What Hollywood forgot, Keanu remembered. But inside Anna's small apartment, things were quiet. She sat at the edge of her bed, holding a cup of tea she hadn't taken a single sip from. The phone kept buzzing. Messages of support from strangers, from friends she hadn't heard from in years, even from other actors she had once admired from a distance. And yet, inside, she still felt unsure. Because while the world seemed to be cheering now, she couldn't forget the moment just before Keanu spoke. The sting in the question. The familiar feeling of being doubted, judged, not taken seriously. It wasn't new. It had followed her for years. She closed her eyes and remembered the early days, the auditions where she was told to just smile more, the roles where she was cast only to be looked at, not listened to. And every time she dared to ask for more, she felt the room grow cold. But yesterday, something had shifted, not because she had spoken up, but because someone else had, and that, in a strange way, scared her even more. She didn't want to be saved. She wanted to be seen. And she didn't know what the world would do with that truth. Across the city, Keanu sat in a small cafe tucked into a corner, drinking his coffee like he did every morning. A few people noticed him but didn't disturb him. He liked it that way. Peace was rare in his life, and he had learned to protect it. His phone buzzed, too, over and over. Texts from his manager, emails from journalists, requests for interviews. He ignored most of them. He hadn't spoken to make headlines. He had spoken because something inside him had felt heavy the moment that reporter insulted Anna. It reminded him of another time. Another person. He thought about his younger sister, how the world treated her differently when she lost her hair during treatment, how strangers had stared at her like she was weak when she was fighting harder than anyone he knew. He had seen the way people use words like knives, and he had promised himself quietly that if he ever had the voice to stop it, he would. His phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Anna. "Can we meet? I want to talk." "Thank you," he replied simply. "Of course." A few hours later, they met in a quiet garden behind a bookstore, one of the places Keanu went when he didn't want to be recognized. There were no cameras, no microphones, just two wooden benches and the soft rustling of trees. Anna walked in slowly, wearing a hoodie and dark glasses. But when she saw him, she pulled the glasses off. She didn't want to hide from him. "I wasn't expecting you to say anything," she said, sitting down beside him. "I know," he replied. "You didn't need me to, but I wanted to." She looked down at her hands. "I felt small, like maybe they were right." Keanu shook his head. "You're not small, Anna. You've just been standing in rooms that tried to make you feel that way." She didn't speak for a while. Then she asked, "Why did you say what you said?" He looked out at the trees before answering. "Because silence has a cost, and too many people have paid it already." Anna took a deep breath. "But what if people think I can't stand up for myself?" "Then they don't understand strength," he said gently. "Sometimes strength is standing. Sometimes it's letting someone stand beside you." She blinked away, the tears forming at the edge of her eyes. "I wish I could go back and answer him differently." "You'll get another chance," Keanu said. "And when you do, you'll know what to say." "Not for them. For you." They sat in silence again. Not uncomfortable this time. Peaceful. A few days later, Anna was invited to appear on a late-night talk show. At first, she said no, but then she remembered what Keanu said. "Silence has a cost," she agreed. On the night of the show, the host smiled and welcomed her warmly. The audience clapped, not politely, but with real excitement. Something had changed. After a few light jokes and stories, the host finally asked, "So, that moment at the press conference, when Keanu spoke up, what went through your mind?" Anna smiled softly. Not fake, not nervous, just real. "For a second," she said, "I thought maybe I had failed, like maybe I should have answered the question better. But then I realized his words weren't just about me. They were about all of us who've ever been asked to prove we belong. And maybe that's the real answer. We don't have to prove it anymore. We just have to keep showing up." The audience clapped again, louder this time. And in that moment, Anna didn't feel small. She felt seen. Meanwhile, Keanu watched the interview alone from his kitchen. He smiled, just a little, as he sipped his tea. He didn't need credit. He didn't need the world to remember what he said. It was enough to know that she did, and somewhere deep down, he knew. The question he asked that day wasn't just for the reporter. It was for everyone who ever made someone else feel like less. The screen test that changed everything 3 weeks had passed since the press conference. The buzz around Anna and Keanu had faded from headlines, but the impact had quietly settled into people's hearts. Anna's interview clip was still being shared, not because it was flashy, but because it was honest. Millions of women saw themselves in her voice, and in Keanu's silence, they found something rare. A man who didn't speak to take space, but to create it for someone else. But Hollywood moves fast. Anna was now back in the cycle of meetings, auditions, and script readings. Some offers had come in, a few romantic leads, a supporting role in an action film, even a commercial. But none of them felt right. Then, one email changed everything. Her agent called late at night, voice full of breathless excitement. "Anna, there's a new project. It's different, powerful. The director is known for films that win awards. They want someone real, someone strong but soft, someone who's lived through doubt and come out standing." Anna listened carefully. "What's the role?" "A mother, a fighter, a woman who loses everything but still saves someone else. They said it's the heart of the film, and they want you to audition." Anna's heart beat faster. It was the kind of role she had dreamed about for years. No glamour, no heavy makeup, no need to be perfect, just the chance to show who she really was, beneath the surface. The only catch: the director was tough, known for making actors cry during auditions. He didn't believe in second takes. "You either feel it or you don't," he once said in an interview. Anna had one chance. The next morning, she arrived at the audition building early. She wore a plain black shirt, her hair pulled back, no makeup, no earrings. She wanted to bring everything real with her: the doubt, the pain, the growth. As she walked through the glass doors, her phone buzzed. One message from Keanu. "You don't have to prove anything. Just remember who you are. You've already won." She smiled. Not because she felt confident, but because even in silence he still knew when she needed to be reminded of her own worth. The waiting room was full of other actresses, Many older, some well-known, a few whispering lines to themselves. The air was filled with nerves. Anna sat quietly in the corner, hands resting on her knees. Finally, her name was called. She stepped into a dark studio room. Just one chair in the middle, a camera in front of her. And behind it, the director. A man with grey hair, tired eyes, and a quiet, watchful presence. He didn't smile. He didn't greet her. "Sit," he said. "Scene 5. No script. Tell me what you'd say if you lost your child. Make me believe you." Anna froze for a second. "No script? No lines?" Her chest tightened. She hadn't prepared for this. But then something strange happened. She closed her eyes. And instead of trying to invent a performance, she just remembered. She remembered every time she felt powerless. Every time someone made her feel like she wasn't enough. She remembered the question from the reporter, the silence in the room, the way her throat had closed when the whole world was watching. And then she remembered Keanu's voice. "Have you ever tried to be brave while the world is laughing at you?" The words echoed in her chest. She opened her eyes and spoke. "I tried everything to protect you. I held you when no one else would. I prayed for you, begged for you. I gave up sleep, gave up dreams. And still, you slipped away from me. And now the world feels too loud, too fast, too cruel. And I don't know how to breathe without you." Her voice broke, but she didn't force the tears. They came naturally, slow, heavy, real. The room was still. Not even the camera made a sound. The director leaned forward, his lips parted slightly, surprised. Anna looked down, then added, "But I will keep walking, because that's what you would have wanted, and because even if the world never sees me, I'll never stop seeing you." When she finished, the silence stayed. The director didn't clap, didn't nod, just said, "Thank you," and waved her out. Anna walked back to her car, unsure if she had done enough. But deep inside, something felt different. She hadn't performed. She had spoken her truth. And whether they chose her or not, that could never be taken away. 3 days later, her agent called again. "Anna, they picked you, not just for the role. The director said you gave the most human audition he's ever seen. He said you didn't act, you lived it." Anna stood in her kitchen, barefoot, holding her phone like it was made of glass. "Me?" she asked, still not fully believing. "Yes," the agent said. "They want you, and they want you to speak at the press conference, not just stand there." Anna felt something rise in her chest. Not pride. Not even relief. It was peace. Later that evening, she typed a message. "They chose me." Within seconds, a reply came. "I'm not surprised. I'm proud of you." That night, she walked outside and looked up at the stars. The sky was quiet, but inside her, everything was loud. Memories, hope, fear, and strength. She didn't know what would come next. But for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of it. And far away, Keanu watched a short clip of her audition that had leaked online. He didn't say anything. He just smiled, because some victories don't need celebration. They just need to be witnessed. When her voice finally echoed, the press conference hall was larger this time. Grand chandeliers, velvet carpets, and tall glass walls made it feel more like a royal palace than a place to answer questions. Camera crews moved like quiet shadows across the room. Reporters whispered guesses and gossiped to one another while actors rehearsed lines behind the scenes. Anna stood alone in the green room, watching herself in the mirror. She wore a simple white blouse and black pants. Nothing fancy, nothing heavy. She had chosen them herself, against the stylist's advice. "I want to feel like myself," she had said. Not a version of me they created. On the table near her, a folded note rested. 5 words in neat handwriting. You belong. Never forget that. It wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. Keanu's words always knew how to arrive exactly when they were needed. Her name was called. She stepped out from behind the curtain and into a room filled with flashing lights, clicking shutters, and quiet murmurs. The director stood beside her, proud but composed. The lead actor smiled kindly, and in front of them, a sea of cameras, questions, and eyes. The moderator began. Questions flew quickly about the story, the cast, the filming locations. Anna answered, calmly, her voice steady but kind. People listened more closely now, not just because she was the lead actress, but because something had shifted since that day weeks ago. And then it happened again. A reporter in the second row raised his hand. His tone was polite, but his eyes carried the same old challenge. Anna, you've become something of a symbol after that last press event. But some people say you only got the role because of that moment with Keanu Reeves. How would you respond to people who think it wasn't your talent, but his support that got you here? The room tensed. Even the moderator paused. The silence wasn't as thick as before, but it carried weight. Anna didn't look at the director. She didn't glance at Keanu, who stood in the back of the room without anyone noticing. Instead, she stepped forward, lifted the microphone, and met the reporter's eyes directly. I've heard that before, she said softly. And I used to believe it. I used to think that I needed someone else to speak for me, that my own voice wasn't loud enough, or sharp enough, or strong enough. Her voice didn't shake. It grew. But here's what I've learned. Kindness doesn't make you weak. Support doesn't make you less. And being helped doesn't mean you didn't earn your place. It means someone saw your fight and chose not to stay silent. The audience leaned in. Keanu didn't speak for me. He reminded me that I could speak for myself. And now I'm here to remind anyone who's ever felt like they didn't belong. You do. You don't need to be loud or perfect. You just need to keep showing up. There was a pause. Not of doubt, but of reflection. And then, slowly, applause began. Real applause, the kind that rises not from politeness, but from hearts that recognize truth. Some clapped with both hands. Some clapped with tears in their eyes. And in the back, Keanu watched. He didn't smile wide. He didn't nod dramatically. He just closed his eyes for a moment, as if breathing in the peace of a promise fulfilled. Anna walked off stage afterward, feeling lighter, like something had been lifted from her chest, not just the pressure, but the silence she had carried for years. As she moved down the hallway toward the exit, she heard a soft voice behind her. You didn't just speak, Keanu said, catching. Up beside her. You echoed. Anna stopped walking. She turned and looked at him. How did you know what I needed that day? He shrugged. Because I've needed it too. They didn't talk much after that. They just walked together for a while, two people who had been through enough to know when words mattered and when silence did more. Over the next few weeks, Anna's role became more than just a character. It became a conversation. Interviews, articles, panel discussions, all asking how the industry could treat women better, how it could stop questioning their worth, how it could listen more. Anna didn't become a symbol. She became something stronger. A reminder. A reminder that bravery isn't always loud. That kindness isn't weakness. That when someone stands beside you, it doesn't steal your strength. It multiplies it. One afternoon, she was invited to speak at a film school. Students gathered from different cities. They had seen the clips, read the stories. And now, they waited to hear her in person. She walked on stage slowly. No bright lights. No cameras this time, just her and the students. I used to believe that if I didn't fight alone, I wasn't strong, she began. But now I know. Strength is sometimes in the hand you hold, in the person who sees your silence and stays beside you anyway. One student raised a hand. "What if no one stands beside you?" he asked. Anna smiled gently. "Then you stand anyway, and trust that one day someone will see you, and when they do, you let them in. Not because you need saving, but because we all deserve someone who doesn't look away." And far in the back of the room, just before she left, a familiar figure slipped quietly out the side door. No photos, no words, just the soft sound of footsteps and the silent promise of a man who always knew when to speak and when to let someone else shine. The scene that broke her months passed, but the echoes of Anna's voice never truly faded. Her speech at the film school was clipped, shared, turned into quotes. Young actors pinned her words on their bedroom walls. Film professors played her interview in classrooms. Something about her quiet courage had opened a new door in Hollywood, one where empathy mattered just as much as talent. And now, she was about to take the biggest step of her life. The film she had auditioned for, the one with the broken mother and the lost child, had begun production. The script was brutal, honest, painfully human. Every scene touched something deep in her, as if the story wasn't fiction but fragments of her own life, written in someone else's hand. Anna threw herself into the role. No makeup, no glamorous lighting, just raw truth. She skipped sleep, stayed late, studied every beat of pain. Sometimes she would walk barefoot on set just to feel more grounded, to remember what it meant to be fully present. The director pushed her harder than anyone ever had. But this time it didn't feel cruel. It felt like he saw something in her that others had missed for years, her fire. But then came the scene. Scene 23. The one no one wanted to talk about. It was short on paper, only 3 lines. But in those lines, Anna's character had to say goodbye to her child. Forever. The night before filming, Anna sat in her trailer alone, reading the lines over and over. The words blurred on the page. Her heart raced. She could feel something blocking her chest. It wasn't the fear of acting badly. It was something else. A memory. Years ago, Anna had received a call in the middle of the night. Her younger brother had been in an accident. By the time she arrived at the hospital, it was too late. She had never spoken about it publicly. Never even said his name in an interview. She had locked the pain away, buried it under scripts, red carpets, and forced smiles. But now, this role, this one scene, had cracked that door open again. Soft knock came at the door. "We're ready when you are," said the assistant. Anna didn't answer right away. She picked up her phone and hesitated. Then, without overthinking, she typed one message. "Can you come?" She didn't say where. She didn't explain. But a reply came just 5 minutes later. "Already on my way. Keanu." When she stepped onto the set, the crew grew quiet. The lights were dim. The room was made to look like a hospital. White walls, silent machines, a small bed covered with soft blankets. Anna stood near the edge, facing the camera, while the actor playing her son lay quietly in bed. The director didn't say, "Much, whenever you're ready." Anna tried. The first take, she forgot the lines. The second, she said them, but her eyes stayed dry. The third, her voice cracked halfway through. The fourth, she stood frozen, unable to speak. The director sighed, rubbing his temples. He looked at her, not with anger, but worry. Anna stepped away, her breath heavy, her eyes staring at the floor. Then, a quiet voice came from behind the set walls. "Can I talk to her for a second?" The director turned, and Keanu walked onto the set. He didn't wear makeup, didn't carry anything, just walked slowly toward Anna, stopping beside her without making a sound. The crew watched in respectful silence. Anna turned to him, her eyes already glassy. "I can't do it," she whispered. Keanu looked at her, then gently asked, "What's really holding you back?" Anna shook her head. "It's not acting. It's him. My brother. The first time she had said it aloud in years. Keanu nodded slowly, his voice soft like distant thunder. Then don't act, he said. Remember. Anna closed her eyes, and everything came rushing back. The hospital lights, the silence of that night, the sound of the phone ringing, and the way no one had said it out loud, that he was gone. When the director called for the 5th take, Anna stepped into position. Again, she didn't touch her script, didn't ask for notes. She looked at the boy in the bed. Then she knelt down beside him, placed her hand on his chest, and whispered the lines, not like they were written for a film, but like they were being said for real. I will always love you. Even when you're not here, even when I can't hold you, I will still love you, and I will carry your laugh with me, every day. Her voice broke into tears, but she didn't stop. The camera kept rolling. No one breathed. When the director finally said cut, no one clapped. The makeup artist wiped her own face with the back of her hand. The camera operator looked down, unable to meet anyone's eyes. And Keanu. He stood silently by the wall, watching her not as an actor, but as a human being who had just let the deepest part of herself be seen. Anna walked off, set quietly, and Keanu followed her. Outside, under the soft evening sky, she sat on a step and let the wind touch her face. Thank you, she said. Keanu sat beside her. You didn't need me, he replied. You just needed space to be real. Anna turned to him, her eyes still red. Will it ever stop hurting? Keanu looked at the sky for a moment. No, he said. But someday, it'll stop breaking you. And in that quiet moment, no cameras rolled. No quotes were written, but something had shifted again. Not on the screen, but inside. Anna had given everything she had. And for once, that was finally enough. When kindness writes the final line, the film premiered on a rainy evening in New York City. Umbrellas filled the streets like a sea of dark wings. Photographers shouted from behind barricades, lights flashing through the mist. Limousines pulled up slowly, one after the other, releasing carefully dressed stars into the glow of the red carpet. Anna stepped out of the car with her hair tucked behind her ears, wearing a dress as simple as her heart. No diamonds, no drama, just elegance and truth. She paused for a second, letting the rain touch her face before she walked forward. The cameras clicked wildly. This time they weren't asking what she was wearing. They were asking how she felt. And she told them. Proud, she said. Not of the movie, but of the people who made it, and the truth we told together. Inside the theater, silence settled as the screen came to life. From the very first frame, the audience leaned in. Anna's performance didn't demand attention. It invited it. Every tear, every breath, every moment of stillness carried weight. It didn't feel like acting. It felt like remembering. When scene 23 arrived, no one moved. People wept openly. Even the critics stopped writing. When the credits rolled, the theater stayed quiet for a moment longer before the applause began. Not loud or fast, but long, steady, rising, and in the final line of the credits, just before the screen faded to black, were these words, dedicated to those who walk through grief with quiet courage, and to those who stand beside them without needing to be seen. Anna read it and felt her heart press against her ribs. She hadn't written it. Keanu had. He hadn't told her. She only found out later, when the director casually mentioned it during the after party. He added that line, he said, sent it straight to the editor, didn't want his name on it, just wanted it to be there. Anna looked across the room. Keanu stood near the back, a small drink in his hand, talking to an assistant director about motorcycles and music. She walked over. You didn't have to do that, she said. He smiled. I know. Why did you? Because stories aren't just told with words, he replied. They're told with how we show up. Anna stood beside him for a while. Neither of them said much. They didn't need to. A few weeks later, the film swept through award season. Anna was nominated for Best Actress at every major show. But more than the trophies, something else began happening. Film schools started using her performance as a teaching tool. Directors began writing fuller, deeper roles for women who had been ignored for years. Young actresses sent her letters saying, "You made me feel seen." And one day, during a quiet walk in a city far from Hollywood, Anna passed a small bookstore. In the window was a hand-drawn sign, writing workshop. Finding your voice through pain. Guest speaker, Ana de Armas, stopped and smiled. Not because she was proud, but because she had become the thing she once needed. On the night of the awards, as stars arrived in glowing gowns and tuxedos, Anna chose a different path. Instead of walking the carpet, she visited the children's hospital, where she had done research for her film. She spent the evening reading stories to kids who couldn't attend school. She brought them cupcakes. She laughed with them. And when a nurse asked her why she wasn't at the ceremony, she simply said, "This is where the light is tonight." Back at the ceremony, when her name was called as the winner of Best Actress, the crowd stood in ovation. But Anna wasn't there. Keanu was. And when they handed him the golden statue, he stepped up to the mic and said only one thing. This belongs to someone who reminded us that pain can become power, and silence can become a voice. She's where she always is, with the people who need her. He didn't stay for pictures. He placed the award on the empty seat beside him and walked out quietly. Outside, the sky was full of stars. He looked up for a moment, then pulled out his phone. One message. "They called your name." The whole room stood up. A minute later, her reply came. "I know, but tonight I needed to remind a little girl that she matters, just like you reminded me." And miles apart, both of them smiled at the same time. Not because of fame, not because of awards, but because in a world that often forgets to be kind, they didn't. And that was the story they had written together. Not with scripts, not with scenes, but with something far more rare. Humanity.